wizard school. I want that idea, like I'm ready for it, but I haven't had it yet. I have little ideas like, why do we suffer? or what if my friend John had been a girl? That was sort of the initial idea for Paper Towns. So I was thinking a lot about my friend John Malden, and I was like, man, if John Malden had been a girl, he would have been much more interesting. He would have had a whole different set of problems, and he would have had this sort of all these gender expectations, and it would have been really cool and interesting. So, I mean, that's how Paper Towns began for me. Looking for Alaska began for me by thinking about my own high school experiences, I think, and wanting to process them. But as for how you go from those little ideas to the business of actually writing a book, like, to me, it's more about the interconnection of very small ideas, linking them together into a chain. There's a lot of ways to imagine shapes of novels. So one of the first ways I imagine a book is usually as a spiral. Like, there's this point for Hazel in The Fault in Our Stars. The point is Hazel has to go to a support group. And this point leads to another point. Hazel meets Augustus, which leads to another point, which leads to this ever-widening circle until, whoa, they have this crazy life together, and whoa, they're in love, and whoa, this happens, and like it spirals out from that point. So if you think about the novel or your story as a spiral, then you can sort of think about what should happen in order for it to keep that shape. And I find that quite useful. This is very abstract, and I apologize to people who aren't interested in writing, but there are lots of other ways to imagine shapes of stories too. So in Will Grayson, which I wrote with my friend David Levithan, we imagined the novel as an X. Don't cheer for David. David's new book, by the way, I have to say, I never promote the work of other authors because it's very bad for me. But I do. But David's new book is just beautiful. It's just really brilliant. It's called Every Day, and it's about a kid who wakes up every day in someone else's body. Every day a different body. And in love with the same girl. So every day, this person who doesn't have a gender or a physical body of any kind wakes up in a new body within about 4 hours drive of wherever he or she woke up yesterday. And he's all, or she, I'm trying as we do, I'm trying to gender binary it when it is a brilliant novel that does not allow for that. This individual wakes up every day in a different body and then like has to try to get to this girl this individual loves. We really need a gender neutral pronoun. That's very hard to say in sign language. About gender neutral pronouns, isn't it? Yeah. Well, they've solved this problem to a great extent, where we haven't. So, yeah, but it's a really fascinating book, and it's one of those books that has a brilliant premise, but that's also really brilliantly executed. But anyway, in Will Grayson, we imagine the novel as an X. These two characters start out in very different places, they come together, their lives sort of intertwine, and then they go their separate ways. And in imagining that novel as an X, that also sort of fuels where your ideas go, because you think like, well, I have to put them one step closer to each other, or I have to put them one step further away from each other. And so that was very helpful. So imagining these things as shapes and as like sort of forms, not to get all like contemporary art theory on you, but like thinking about the importance of forms and the centrality of the form of the novel is very helpful to me.